So for a lot of viewers at home, I'm sure they're some of them are glued to this, and they're like, "This is what I'm seeking." And then there's probably a lot of them that don't even know where to start with this. You know, they're kind of like where Kai and I are, where they want to get further into this. What do you think the best first step to stepping in that pool would be of long range shooting?
Get a job that'll support the.
Yeah, that's a good one. Honestly,
that is very important.
It does sound like there's a lot of money involved.
Yes, it can be.
Welcome to CF Podcast. I am Kaya, and I've got Ryan over here.
That's me.
We've got US Arms Co. here with us.
What's up?
Josh.
Yep. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep. And who's this handsome fellow over there?
Monsieur Gerald.
Je m'appelle Gerald.
Oh, wow. Was that Arabic?
That was French.
French
with a little southern twang to it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Louisiana. That's what that was.
Yeah.
That was Creole.
He died in the parish.
That's awesome. Well, welcome, guys. Really glad to have you guys over here. We just shot a couple of videos today with you guys. Manufacturer review, had some lunch, just a little warehouse tour, and we decided to do a quick podcast, me and Ryan. I think it's going to be good times. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about from y'all's company. I mean, you guys make some amazing stuff over there at US Arms Co.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're doing our best to push the envelope. You know, a lot of these, big time manufacturers, they can, it's easy for them to get stagnant. Mm-hmm. You know, and when you're a young company and you're on the hunt, right, to be somebody. We're in that ballpark to beat everybody out. You know, like when you take a look at our motto, lightweight, accurate, durable. So everything that we build falls along on those lines. Like we want every weapon system that we produce that somebody looks at it and goes, wow, this is a piece of artwork. Mm-hmm. You know, and it's not only that, it's lightweight. It's not cumbersome to carry. It's accurate. It functions the way it should. I can hit anything that I shoot at. And so that's what we try to produce and what we have been producing. And if it doesn't meet that standard, we stick it back in a box and try it again.
So I want to touch on something. Those 3 words are the 3 things that you really want in a firearm. And I think you kind of overlooked that. I mean, you guys have it for your motto, but durable, lightweight, and accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow. What else can you want out of a firearm?
Looks good. If you're not looking good, I'm sorry, you're not winning anything. You got to look good.
Yeah. Was that if you're in the woods and you're lost, like the first rule is look good, and then if you end up and you're lost, revert back to rule 1, try to look good.
That's what I'm saying.
So, lightweight, durable,
accurate,
and handsome.
Yeah.
And
don't forget the 4th.
That's 4th.
Yeah.
4th.
We call this one WAPO.
Yeah, can you guys add that to your motto?
And handsome. It'll be on our next sticker.
Dude, so US Arms Co. Like, I met you guys at Surviving Man about 1.5 years ago.
Yep. And
I saw your products, chatted with you guys a little bit, and you were like, hey, we make our own brakes, or these are our own rifles, and the competitors were using it. Like, it looked amazing, but I didn't get a chance to obviously shoot at all. I was so busy there, and so were you guys. How did this whole US Arms Company start? Just give us a little background on it. What do you think?
Yep. So US Arms Company originally started decades ago in the airline industry. So L.H. Thompson, the parent company, started making airplane parts for Boeing, Gulfstream, Embraer, and in doing so, like when you gain a contract in the airline industry, like there are certain tolerances, like even inside of 0.005 of an inch. So to kind of quantify that, 0.003 of an inch is about the thickness of a sheet of paper. And so when you talk about a part that could be 5 feet long, like a jack shaft on an aircraft, right? That thing needs to be held within 0.005 of an inch over a 4-foot span.
Depends on which one it is. It can be all the way down to 5 microns.
Yeah, I mean, there's so when you
I
talk.
don't know what you just said. That's amazing.
Yeah,
was that French?
5 microns.
5 microns.
I didn't even know that was a measurement.
that is a breath.
Yeah,
that's like small, obviously millimeter, and then it goes to microns, right?
It goes to microns.
Yeah.
So anytime you start dealing with like rockets and stuff like that, if you're lucky enough to gain a contract for like I make this one particular part for this rocket, a lot of times you'll look at some of the drawings and they're within that kind of tolerance.
That's insane.
So it is insane. Like I can't quantify it. Like that's not even in my wheelhouse. However, I do understand that it's well within 1,000th of an inch.
Yeah, and you guys have a Boeing contract. You guys make parts for Boeing.
We make parts for several different companies.
Yeah.
You know, but
our main customer is Boeing.
Is Boeing.
Like insane. I mean,
Yeah.
I used to live in Seattle, and I've been to Boeing facility numerous
So
times.
you've seen it. Like it's huge.
It's exactly. They've got like the Everett facility, and they've got just insane. And the fact that, I mean, Boeing, worldwide known aircraft manufacturer, and you guys are making parts for that. To get a contract for Boeing, it ought to be not easy.
It's not easy, and you know they're going to hold you to a standard, and that's good. And to be competitive, and you know the best part about capitalism is that you're the guy for the job that can make the standard at the best price.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we took those machining concepts, and you know a couple of the guys were big shooters, and we took a step back and was like, man, you know we're taking a look at some of these other firearms, and man, they're just not. They could be better. You know, this gun is like super heavy, or this rifle right here, you know, it's fresh out of the box, brand new, and it shoots 3-inch groups at 100 yards. You know, and when you step back and you take a look, it's like, man, if I can do this in the airline industry, I can really exceed over here in the firearms industry. And all you got to do is put your head together, like, and just be somewhat intuitive, and go, okay, let's give it a shot. And we did.
Hire a guy like Josh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know a little bit. I'm a jack of a lot of trades, master of none.
Okay.
But yeah, so we got the heads together, and then the company was stood up, and we started in the AR-15 kind of realm, and you know that's a tough game to get into, because you know everybody makes an AR-15 now. It's kind of like in the pistol world, right? Everybody's got a semi-automatic 9mm. But like, whose is better?
Yeah.
So when we took a look at that, we were like, okay, how do we stand out from everybody else? And again, we go back to the motto, right? Lightweight, accurate, durable. When you take a look at other platforms like the FN SCAR, okay, it's a great weapon system. I'll give them that. It functions. But it can be pretty heavy sometimes. Like when you take a look at that reciprocating bolt, I mean, that's a massive steel bolt that's running back and forth on that weapon system. When you talk about durability of a SCAR, I've broken the buttstock off of an FN SCAR several times, and their answer to that is, oh well, we'll just send you another one. And it's like, no, man, I don't want that. So and that's just an example. I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody, but I'm just using that as an example, right? So when we started building the platform, and the AR-15 is one of those that it is just solid. You know, Eugene Stoner, when he came up with the gas or direct impingement AR-15 line, he originally built it as an AR-10. A lot of people think that the AR-15 was first, but the AR-10 was actually first. He built it in 7.62. And it worked so well that we're like, hey, man, you know, we could build this on a smaller frame and give the boys in Vietnam a better, lighter rifle. I don't even know if they thought it was better, but it was a lighter rifle. They could carry more bullets. And then it just kind of grew from there. And over the decades of the AR-15 platform, we've kind of seen what works, what doesn't work, and it's just become exponentially better. And when we take a look at what we build, everything that we build has a certain tolerance. So the upper and lower receivers are within, I want to say they're well within 5 thousandths. The upper receiver's face is perfectly square, and they're built out of billet 70-75, and so it's strong. It's structurally strong, and you can take that rifle and drop it out of the back of a truck, pick it up, and shoot, and it's going to be fine.
Hold zero and everything.
It'll hold zero and everything.
And explain for some of the viewers too the difference between why you use billet, versus some people using forging, and why that worked for you guys.
Yeah. So there's nothing wrong with the forging, but when you start getting into metallurgy, you run into things that are well over my pay grade. However, I do understand the concept of it, and so when you look at a forging, you have a poured metal into a form that could have air pockets in it. It could be strong on this end of the forge, but weaker over here. But in billet, the way they make billet, you get a consistent consistent piece of metal that is the same strength throughout. The only problem with billet is that billet can be expensive, and especially in the machining process, you have to take, like, so some of the blocks that we use, they're 8 inches by 4.5 inches tall by 3 inches wide. Okay, for a lower receiver. So that block right there would cost us, I don't know, I think they're like $28, $30 for a block of 70, 75 aluminum. And then we have to take that block, all right, chuck it up and dial it into a 5-axis CNC machine, and then it sits there and cuts for an hour and a half.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so there's a lot of material and a lot of machine time that goes into making that billet lower receiver. But the greatest part about it, again, on the metallurgy side of the house, that you have the strength and integrity of 7075 aircraft grade aluminum that is the same strength throughout consistently, right? Yeah. And so I don't run into the issue. You know, everybody's got that mom or dad, you know, that's got the old toolbox, right? And they buy this cheap hammer, and you go to like pull this nail out and it breaks one of the claws off because it's made of cheap metal. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, that's along the lines of like they use the cheapest thing possible to make a hammer that is now broke on you, which nobody would ever think of that back in the day because they used to make them out of like poured steel. And so when we take a look at our AR-15 line or the Utah line, we are giving our best effort to produce a upper and lower receiver that is the tightest fitting receiver on the market, which is going to produce the highest level of accuracy that we can pull out of our hat on a production level.
Yeah. Well, so something that comes to mind, there's a great book in business called Good to Great. Have you guys ever heard of it? And author's slipping my mind right now. But it seems like a lot of those principles you guys are instituting in the way you guys do business, in your rifle specifically. Everyone makes, there's some great good rifles, good AR-15 rifles.
Absolutely.
And some people would say, hey, there's no reason to make it better. The AR-15 is the way it is, you know.
That's un-American.
It's been that way
since
the 1960s.
The AR-15 is the most popular rifle in
sporting
rifle in the United States, and a lot of people misunderstand that it can be a very, very accurate platform. Josh and I have proven that time and time again. Even in a 5.56 or 2.23, you can stretch them out to 1,100 yards and be effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. How many models do you have? I know you've had a few, but
yeah, absolutely. So we've got 4 essentially, but we kind of keep it to the Pro, which is the Utah, which is the entry level weapon system, and then when you go up to the Pro, the barrel grade change, like the grade of steel, the accuracy goes up. There's trigger changes. There's other modifications that would make the weapon a little bit more attractive, like a lighter trigger, a more accurate barrel. And then when we go to the Champion, you start looking at our patents like, you know, the M905 Talon muzzle brake, the Camlock system, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more later. But and the barrel that you get is a 416R stainless match grade barrel. And again, on the Champion, so like there's difference, you know. When you take a look at the Champion, you've got a precision chamber. Like that chamber is cut for the bolt that is in that rifle. It's not just, hey, it's within this window, like throw a bolt in it, it's good. Like, no, we hand fit every Champion. And honestly, you should. You know, if you're going to buy a precision weapon system,
100%.
It should be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, on those, and then we also have the service rifle. A lot of guys they don't know that we offer it, but we do offer like the CMP style Camp Perry service rifle build for those guys who are interested. And actually, we're going to be competing this year at Camp Perry at the Nationals
for like a mil spec.
So yeah, it's when you take a look at service rifle, it's essentially like the M16A2 style, right? But it's a match grade variant. So there's you know, some rules that you got to have, like it has to be 20-inch barrel, rifle length system. So everybody, it kind of puts everybody on like an even playing field. Like nobody has an advantage. Yeah. Your trigger has to pick up a 4.5 pound weight. Your trigger guard has to be original mil spec. You know, there's just certain things about it. However, the service rifles that we've built so far have all shot about quarter minute.
Wow.
Quarter minute.
Quarter minute,
Oh, wow.
like shoot hole. And granted, we've only built a handful for people because a lot of people don't know about high power or service rifle competition. But if you have you guys ever heard of the President's 100 match?
No.
Ever?
No.
Okay. So the President's 100 match is shot every year at Camp Perry, and it's where the best shooters around the world show up to like see who they are. And when you talk about service rifle, like you don't have a bipod. There's no bipod. You have a sling and your body. Like that's it. And so your first iteration of fire is the standing offhand at 200 yards. And just to give you an idea, the X or the bullseye is a 3-inch circle. Okay,
What
standing
about
off.
magnification?
So the magnification, it used to be strictly iron sight. And I think back in, I want to say it's 2016, 2017, they allowed the use of a scope because the military had gone to optics, right? So you started seeing a lot of like Trijicon ACOGs that were 3.5, 4.5 power. So the CMP said, okay, well, if this is the standard use, that is now standard practice in the military to use an optic, we will now allow service rifle to use up to a 4.5 power optic.
Okay.
So you can use up to a 4.5 power scope, which at 600 yards is not a lot.
Not a lot at all.
It's not a lot. Like you've really got to pay attention. And so your second iteration of fire is at the 300-yard line, out of a sling, off your elbows. Okay, starting from standing, as soon as they targets, you get into your position, you fire 2 rounds, make a reload, fire 8 rounds for the best group you can possibly put in the center of the target at 300 yards.
How big is that target? 3-inch too?
It's 3-inch.
Yeah.
Dude.
You know what I mean? And
I
so
thought I was able to shoot.
And you have 60 seconds
You got
from
60
the time
seconds.
that the targets present themselves to get into your shooting position and to put your 10 rounds on target.
2 reload 8.
Two
reload
reload 8.
and still shoot a minute of angle or better.
Now a lot of that's in that stance that we were kind of talking about off camera.
Finding that natural point of aim. Absolutely.
Your MPA is the most important. And when I didn't realize how important it was until I started shooting service rifle. And I've noticed that since shooting service rifle that it's made me refine certain positions even more, especially in the standing offhand. It is so crucial that you have a natural point of aim.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're going to try to muscle the weapon system onto target, and you can't hold it still.
Dude, you guys got to teach me this tomorrow at the range.
Yeah.
I really want to know
Absolutely.
these. Like, seriously, learning never ends, right?
Yep.
Like, no matter where you go, like, you could be amazing. You go to a range, whatever, and some guy who does it differently or competes, whatever.
Yep.
Oh, my God, I always try to pick people's brains and just learn a couple of things. And what you just said about the stance, I know mine can always improve. So I look forward to trying that.
It's a very type A thing to want to muscle a gun to the center of the target, right? And through recoil, a lot of times you'll find that the weapon system will bring itself back to where you had it before, or you'll have a flyer. And our ability to get out of our own head and then go back to the fundamentals, right? If you look at old like World War II books, this is not a new concept. If you go look at old World War II books, they have natural point of aim in there. But for some reason, with all of the technology, with the 30 power scopes and the muzzle brakes, and
we've gotten away from it.
We've said, okay, well, I'm going to fight this thing into where I want it to be. Like you'll bend to my will, and at extended ranges, that it still doesn't happen. We wonder why we have a flyer, and it's because fundamentally we're doing the wrong thing.
Change the technology for the shooter instead of change the shooter for the gun.
For the gun, that's right. So, but yeah, the service rifle is one that we do offer, and it's nothing more than if you're interested, give us a call. We'll build you one that will literally win you a national title if you're good enough.
Dude, and I wholeheartedly believe that. I've seen your system, obviously, here, which we're going to talk about the bolt gun, too, here. Obviously, I've known you guys for quite some time, and I've played around with your rifles over here. Just phenomenal stuff. And you guys know exactly what you're doing. So I mean, I'm lucky because I know you, so you get to help me. But if I didn't know you and I listened to this podcast, I'd be calling you. 100%.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate it, man. And like I said, man, you know, there's a lot of things that in the growth of the company. I know we were talking about it before. You know, we've run into stumbling blocks. Yeah. You know, it's one of those things that one of the best things about this company is that if you came to me and said, "Hey, man, I really wish you guys, like, you would have a better rifle system if you changed X," we're not going to snub our noses. Like we're going to be like, you know what? Thank you for your time.
We've had a lot of folks. We've had a lot of folks give us feedback. You know, from the time that we went to market with our weapon system, all the way up to now, and we're still taking that feedback and implementing it and changing designs and doing those things that the public wants to see. Not only do we want to make something that is as accurate and durable and lightweight as it can possibly be, we want it to be as ergonomic as it can be as well.
Do you know what I admire to you guys? Like Ryan wasn't there when we were doing the warehouse tour, and I'm not going to give other companies' names, but we were showing certain brands over there, and I was like, oh, you know, that's maybe a direct competitor to U.S. Arms Co. And I brought up to them. I was like, hey, is that? He's like, no, show it all. We don't care who's our competitor. Like, show them all.
Show them all.
Everybody makes good products, you know.
Yep.
We make good products.
That's what we
like
believe.
They didn't want to cut it.
That.
They didn't want to cut that at all. They're like, yeah, show our competitor in our video.
Yeah.
In their own video.
Yeah,
in our own video.
Wow.
You know,
we look at it like this: as there's only so many companies doing this, and I'm not going to sit here and knock somebody else's product because I don't know what goes into building their product. I know what goes into building ours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard so many people just badmouth us, badmouth other companies, and I'm just like, why do that? Why not form your own opinion and stop basing it off of what somebody else thinks?
Yeah,
exactly. Because a lot of times I know during SHOT Show, when we were talking at SHOT Show, right, I had a conversation with you, and I said, hey, look, just give me a shot to show you. I'll show you what we got.
Yeah.
Right?
Of course, yeah, dude.
You know, and, you know, being a new company, we're, you know, 6 years old, or excuse me, 8 years old. I've been with the company for 6. You know, a lot of people be like, well, I've never heard of you. And that's fine. You know, if you're a new company and you're like, what I would say to the public is like, let me show you. Let me show you how we're different. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about being on the podcast here, is that people get a chance to take a look at us, and give us a, you know, a genuine like look at the product. And I think people will be amazed at the amount of time and sweat that has gone into each one of them.
What people always say is this, like, for some reason, and I've been guilty of this too, where if you're not a known brand, well, I'm not going to spend my money on you. I'm just going to go to a known, proven brand, right?
Yep.
And I don't blame those people, but that doesn't mean those are the only brands that they got good stuff. So when I first met you guys, I didn't know anything about U.S. Arms Co. I knew nothing about it. I was like, oh, AR-15, I'll go get, you know, some other companies, right? But after seeing it, and then this proves it. And there's so many other brands too, little brands that I've personally seen at SHOT Show, at EVA, NRA Show, that people don't know about, but these guys make really, really cool stuff. And you guys just absolutely prove that. Like, people don't know about you guys, but yet you have product that would probably, in my opinion, dominate a few known brands all day long.
We found that when you start to innovate, especially in the AR-15 process, in the AR-15 building process and everything that goes into it, those companies that have been around a while tend to step up their game and give the public a better product overall.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to change the perception of what is acceptable in the firearms industry. We want people
setting a new standard.
I mean, we want people to understand that we set the standard, the bar for us so high that in order to keep up with us, you're going to have to set your bar high as well.
Yeah. Literally, like when we're at the shop, if we build you a gun, right, let's say you ordered a Champion. If we build you a Champion and that thing doesn't shoot a half minute or better at 100, we start over.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, obviously this one isn't working. Like we do have a recipe of ammunition that we do a baseline test on, right?
That's important.
And they're all, you know, it's the same thing. We shoot 77. So out of the, you know, the 223 Wild Chamber, we shoot 77 Sierras. You know, it's a great bullet. It shoots well. It's got a long riding surface. So we typically do all of our accuracy testing with 77 Sierra. So that's our baseline. And if that thing doesn't shoot, if that champion doesn't shoot a half minute right out of the gate, we're like, nah, man, this barrel needs to go away, and we're going to start over.
That's not even breaking the barrel in. That's brand new.
Brand new right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate.
It'll only get better.
It'll only
get better.
All of that says so much, not just about you as a company, your product that you guys put out, the integrity that you guys have when talking about other companies. I mean, all of that speaks highly to a customer.
We want the customer to know that it's not just about us. It's more about the customer than it is anything else. And that because without the customer, none of us exist.
Yeah.
Dude, I was listening to this guy, this motivational speaking guy. He was talking about making product, and it had nothing to do with guns. He's like, a lot of people focus on money. Oh, how do I make money and stuff? He's like, if you actually focused on what can I do that would benefit people? He's like, forget the money. Just what can I do that would benefit people? That'll automatically translate into all the money you want. You just got to focus on what benefits people. And in this case, it's a great, what you guys are saying, basically. You're doing what will benefit people ultimately, even by creating competition with other companies when they see your awesome product. Oh my God, we got to beat U.S. Arms Company. They make something better, and then you're like, oh, okay, good. We're gonna dominate that, and we win at the end.
It starts the process of innovation anew. And for years, and I know that Josh noticed this, and I don't know if anybody else noticed it, but for years the AR-15 industry was stagnant.
Yeah, like with the Bushmasters and the DPMS, and you know the
the
rattle gun. You know,
nothing was changing, and then all of a sudden, you know, and things started changing. You know, Daniel Defense came along, and they did their free floated rail.
RIS-2.
I mean, it changed the game. I mean, and that to me, that was when the AR-15 really took a huge jump forward, and innovation and what we could actually do with the weapon system itself.
And I'll tell you, when I saw the biggest leap in innovation is when the SPR, or the Special Purpose Rifle, came out. It was
Mark 12.
It was the Mark 12, exactly. And you shot what, Mark 262 ammunition, 77 grain, right?
Black Hills.
Black Hills. It was loaded. You're absolutely right. It was loaded by Black Hills, and I remember grabbing a brand new Mark 12 and going, look at this. And, you know, you were getting hits at 400, 500, and 600 yards.
Yeah.
And it just blew my mind because like in the Army, right, you only qualify out to 300 meters. And you only qualified out to 300 meters because that was legitimately the capability of the weapon system. So if you're shooting M855 green tip or now M855A1, right, that's 3-minute ammo. And according to the Army standard, they are looking for a rifle that will shoot 3.5 minutes. Like that's the Army standard.
I think that's something a lot of people don't know.
They don't know.
And I've seen so many times from certain manufacturers who make it to that standard. And then when they get something different results.
The quote unquote mil spec standard. The mil spec
is not good.
Not always the best. It's not very good at all. I mean, it means that it's going to function.
When customers see those results, they're like, I don't understand. Why is this
is mil
the
spec
case? Oh, well, that's within the requirements. That was built to.
And so, you know, coming from, you know, an infantry and other background, you know, I was used to a qualification of 300 meters, and that was it. And I was like, yeah, if I can down, you know, Dirty Ivan at 300 meters every time, I'm fine. I put the red dot on it, I send it, and it goes down. So, yay. And then you start taking the Mark 12 out, and you're hitting, you know, 8-inch pie plates, which honestly, a lot of people don't know that Mark 262 is 1.5-minute ammo. Like it's legit. It's not even sub-minute ammo.
I didn't know that.
But we were all told initially early on that it was match grade ammunition to include the M110. The M110 was a minute-and-a-half rifle. Like if you go back and look in the M110 sniper weapon system TM, right, it's a minute-and-a-half gun. On a good day.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? And so guys were like, yeah, I got this sniper rifle. And it's like, yeah, my dad's 30-06 shoots tighter groups in this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that old Remington, you know, the old reliable.
Yeah.
But, you know, so it's not unheard of for people to be disappointed with what, you know, because there's all these visions and like visions of grandeur of like, oh, this is mil-spec, so it's the best. And it's going to shoot this good because it's mil-spec. And then, you know, it's like, hey, welcome to the Department of Defense. You just bought the cheapest thing that we could supply. Lowest bidder.
Exactly. One of the things that I'll say is that the one realm that has driven more innovation in the firearms industry is the competitive shooting sports.
Yeah.
You see the things that have come out in the last 25, 30 years. The red dots, the better optics, using different materials with weapon systems.
So the low powered variable optic that is in every marketing industry now, like Swamp Fox, Swarovski, all of them, Leupold, everybody. That all started from the LPVO getting into the military side of the house, and they were like, wow, hey, yeah, you know, this works really good. And then everybody's like, oh, wow, you know, well, you know, we'll start making them too because it's cool.
Yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong, they have their thing, but yeah, you know, innovation comes through trial and error. You know, and you know, the optics side of the house has grown. The you know the way we build things and to their tolerances have gotten better. And like, you know, even with like the Champion's chamber, we're within 0.003 of an inch.
Yeah.
You know, minimum. That's our acceptable. That's what we consider acceptable. Our pro. Here's a fine example. Also, our mid-range rifle. Okay, we had a guy. I'm not going to mention his name. Marine that had placed really well in the Snipers Unknown Challenge, and he picked our pro rifle as his prize. Okay, and it was like, hey, you can come up here and you can pick 2 things, or what, 2 things, 3 things. I don't remember exactly what it was, but he went up there and pulled our rifle. He goes out 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, I can't remember. It was a short period of time, and competes in a designated marksman sniper competition with our bare stock Utah Pro.
Not even champion.
Just 100.
Not even a champion. Our mid tier with 100-yard zero. And won that sniper competition.
Bone stock.
And he reached back out to us. He's like, hey, bro, I don't know what you guys are doing, but you're doing it right. Thanks.
Dude, I'm getting excited.
Amazing.
Like, I want to go to the range now.
No,
like,
I know.
Seriously.
There's something that I think it doesn't really come across unless you shoot long range. Because there's one thing about shooting on a flat range or shooting at an indoor range, you know, and getting some shots off, getting a tight group.
Yep.
You got zeroed, you know, you feel good at the end of the day.
There's nothing like seeing trace and splash at long range. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. Especially when the winds are high, you get to watch that kind of curveball come out to the wide right, wide left, especially if you guys ever get a chance to go shoot out you know, Middle Texas, like Midland, places like that, where the wind's 30 and 40 miles an hour.
You're making a 4 and 5 minute wind call.
No, it'd be bigger than that.
Bigger than that. Well, it's 4
it'd be like a 3.5 mil wind call.
3.5 to 4 mils of a wind call, that equates to.
So when you talk about there's 3.438 minutes of angle in a mil, right? So we'll just say 3.5. So if we got, you know, 2 mils at 7 minutes, if we're at 3 mils, we're at what? 8, 9, 10 and a half minutes, roughly. So when we equate that, if we go 10 minutes, right, a lot of people say 10 inches. Like a minute of angle is an inch, but it's not exactly an inch. 1.047 at 100 yards. So that starts to, you know, compound itself over range.
Okay.
So if we were making a, you know, 3 mil wind hold for wind or close to 10 minutes, and we say it's at 500 yards, right? We're looking at a compounded movement of you know, getting close to 6 feet outside of the target to bring the bullet back into a center mass hit. And it's really cool to watch those long range shots because it's this arcing rainbow out, and you just watch your bullet come back in like a curveball to home plate. It's like, shoo, pow, you know.
Wow. Dude, just so fascinating.
So the last time I did this was with Texas Plinking. out there, and that's near Austin, Texas, roughly.
Yeah.
But he has a good series right now on his channel, which is taking some guys out that do custom builds on an AR, could be AR-15, AR-10, a lot of bolt guns, and they take him out there, and he shoots about 1,000 yards. And they're trying to figure out how to walk it in onto the target,
right?
And it's so much fun to watch.
Dude,
like there's something addictive about that long range shooting.
When I first got into shooting any kind of long range, I mean, I grew up hunting and fishing and stuff like this, but never. And in the area that I grew up in, we didn't have a whole lot of, like open country. It was, mostly really thick woods. And I didn't get into shooting long range until I was into my late 20s. And once first time I ever hit something at 500 yards, that was it. I was addicted from that point on.
It is. And there's crazy things too, like little phenomenon, what do they call it? Aerodynamic jump. All right. So if I'm firing a bullet downrange, and let's say a 175 Sierra, okay, and the 175 Sierra works on a bracket of 4 miles per hour. So like if I've got a 4 mile hour wind at 500 yards, I'm going to hold a tenth of the range. I'm going to hold a half mil out, and that's going to be my wind hold to bring me back to center. Well, because of the Magnus effect or spin drift, right, I have a high pressure side on the left side of the bullet and a low pressure side, which causes the bullet to drift laterally to the right. And so not at 500 yards, we wouldn't have to worry about a correction really on that on a 1 in 10 twist. But when it relates to a wind hold, right, because of a high pressure and low pressure side, the direction of the wind coming across the bullet laterally can cause the bullet to either raise in elevation or drop in elevation.
Yeah.
And so when we take a look at wind speed as it relates by like brackets, like 4 is your first bracket, 8's the second, we would either increase or decrease our hold to get a center hit, because the wind is not only pushing the bullet laterally, but it can actually, because of the Magnus effect, it can cause the bullet to raise or lower itself in flight.
Wow.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm not sure I've shot out that far before. But no, that's amazing.
I never have, but it just sounds like it's insane. Like, I have a lot of respect for it. I don't have to be in that field when things are this much involved, like this calculations to that level to make that hit. As you were just saying earlier, like you got this little projectile.
Yeah.
You're sending it a mile away and making it hit something that's as big as my torso, right? It's just insane.
That is.
Yeah. And that right there, if that doesn't put a smile on your face, then the ring of the steel, when it finally gets back to you, will. You know what I mean?
Which is 5 seconds later.
Which is 5 seconds later.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
So and speaking of that, we had 2 rifles. We had the law enforcement model, which is chambered in .308 at SHOT Show this past year. We had the .308 and we had the 6.5 Creedmoor that was in the PRS model, such as the one we have here. Yeah. It was same build, but not as tricked out. Like that one's to the max.
Definitely.
So
I'm super. Sure what else you could do?
I'm super jealous. Like that thing is nice.
So well, it's a great time to talk about that then. So, how did you come up with that? So it's Azrael.
Yep.
Right.
So the Azrael, we started brainstorming. Like again, we go back to accuracy, right?
Yeah.
And when we, there's the whole like sniper lore of like it's going to sound real corny, but like I'm a ghost kind of thing.
Yeah.
Anybody who's watched Enemy at the Gates, I am a stone.
Yes.
Kind of thing.
I love that movie.
I put snow on my breath. Like that kind of thing, right?
Voice or no?
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna try to impersonate Jude Law. Although I do have his hairline pretty close.
Josh is a master of impressions. Like, I know he's not getting into it, but he's incredible.
He's gonna get to it.
Peter Griffin's later.
Yes, that's right.
But no, so we sat down and brainstormed, and our first build was like ridiculously accurate. And it was we shot a 5-shot group that was a chewed hole, and it was like 100 and. When we went center to center, we went outside to outside and then subtracted the caliber, right? Because you got half the bullet and half the bullet. Yeah. So you go outside to outside, you take that and then you subtract the caliber, and it gives you your center to center deviation for your shot group. And that first group was like 172 thousandths of an inch at 100 yards for a 5-shot group. And that right there, there are a few people that can pull it off, but they do it on a custom level. and we're doing it on a production level.
Production level.
That is
I
crazy.
mean, Ryan, you know, I mean,
You
got some experience when it comes to.
Not to this degree.
Not like that.
I love building ARs. I'm not as much into the bolt side, the gas side, and I love the relationship between a suppressor and figuring out how to make that gas function reliably and still be able to be soft recoiling and everything else. That's really interesting for me.
It's interesting that you brought that up, because whenever you get into the nuances of the gas system, everybody's familiar with being overgassed.
Yeah.
With
you start getting the dirty chamber,
the
it
dirty
looks
chamber.
Like
you
looks like a
choke,
fire
feel like
pit
you're
in
choking
there.
to death whenever you're
ejection pattern.
Just is straight, almost straightforward.
You've got crumbles of stuff in your chamber.
We have literally taken the time to go through and tune certain weapon systems to operate either suppressed or unsuppressed or both. And the reason that we did that was we wanted to see what the limitations of our system was. And from what we have found, most of the time whenever you're having problems with what you believe is your gas system, it's usually something to do with the buffer system. That's where you're starting to see the most. Was it when we were?
So one of the big things on like direct impingement, right? Mm-hmm. So the AR-15 or the Armalite rifle, model 15 or version 15, whatever.
Not assault rifle?
Not assault rifle.
Not assault rifle.
My mind is blown right now.
Wow,
I can't believe
I thought it was AR as like assault rifle.
So, Eugene Stoner. Thank you, Eugene. You kind of almost wish your name was Eugene. Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you, Eugene.
But the direct impingement or gas impingement system, when you're dealing suppressed, most suppressors are like a rearward flow because of the way the baffles are made. Mm-hmm. And what you'll see is, especially if you lock the bolt to the rear, you'll find that airflow will start to come through the suppressor and then push held gas or trapped gas that were in the baffles back into your chamber.
Definitely.
Right? And so there's a few companies out there that are making forward flow, which is great. And
we love Huxworks.
Yeah. And honestly, man, if you've got a forward flow can and you're on a semi-automatic weapon system, you're doing the right thing.
Yes.
You're ahead of the curve.
You really are.
Exactly. The relationship between that flow through and the gun, I mean, you don't really have to change very much at all, if anything, about the gun.
And
because you're not getting the back pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of guys are, it used to be the cool thing, especially in SOCOM, when Afghanistan kicked off, a lot of the ODAs and such would have suppressors on the team, or all of your elite units would carry suppressors, and it was the cool thing to run suppressors. And guys found out real quick, like, you don't clean that weapon system, you're going to have a jam. Doesn't matter how much tolerance you have in that chamber, you're going to get a jam. And even to this day, like, I'm not a huge fan of carrying a suppressor. I know they have certain qualities, and they're and again, it's like, oh, well, I like Smith & Wesson handguns better than Glock. It's a preference, but when I start looking at a gas impingement system, the cleaner I can keep it running, the more longevity I have with that weapon system until I have to clean it again. Heaven forbid. Yeah. You know what I mean? But especially if you have like a Huxworks that's a flow through that goes out the end, you're going to be fine. The other thing that you got to look at too, and this is just knowledge, is petty knowledge, but a suppressor, when it's really hot at night, if you're running night vision, will glow.
Oh wow, I didn't think
because
about
of the
that.
heat.
Yeah. And some people put like wraps around them for that reason, and also for Mirage as well. If you're shooting, I mean, we will probably figure out this with the bolt gun series. We haven't filmed any episodes yet, but I bet you after we start shooting a lot of that can over there, as great as it is,
you'll see the Mirage.
You're going to see a Mirage.
You'll see it coming up, and it can really wreak havoc whenever you're trying to do a wind call through the scope, because you're getting the Mirage there, but you've also got to either be able to read Mirage. If you don't have a whole lot of vegetation, you've got to be able to read the Mirage from the ground to get your wind call.
Yeah, especially if you're looking at through your rifle scope to try to take a look and make a guesstimation, it's a real problem. So there's a couple of limiting factors, and then when we take a look at suppressors like with the Kevlar sleeve on them, man, I mean, don't get me wrong, they're great, but what they end up doing is that, especially if you're in repeated fire, over a period of time, that heat stays retained into that suppressor, and it ends up like slowly destroying the suppressor because there's only so much heat that it can take before it starts to degrade itself. So the wrap is a good thing. It does keep the heat out of your line of sight a lot better. However, if you're going to be shooting a lot, it's probably a good thing to take that wrap off, because eventually you'll start burning that can up.
Because you're containing that heat in there. Okay.
You're containing the heat in there, and eventually it'll fail.
So in your opinion, would you actually use a suppressor cover or wrap, or would you just learn how to read Mirage better, as you kind of talked about?
A lot of times, like if you're gonna be reading Mirage by yourself, and you do have a suppressor, my recommendation would be to have another optic or maybe a pair of binos or something like that you could take a look for yourself outside of the gun target line, right? Because that heat is just coming up, and there's nothing you can do about it except give it time.
Whenever we get out to the range, and because Josh had to do this with me, I got to where I wanted to read Mirage at the target. That's only one place that you want to read Mirage at. You want to read Mirage at the target, halfway to the target. You want to read Mirage off to your left and your right. You want to see what that wind is doing to make the best wind call that you can make. And
if it's in your face like that coming off the can, and you know, again, like I said, if you're shooting 5-6 rounds here and there, it's not a big deal. Yeah, not a big deal at all. And man, you know what? I'm going to say it. I know everybody here thinks it. Suppressors are fun.
Oh,
they just are.
They are. I mean,
they are.
You know what I mean?
So it's crazy with the gun industry. It's changed significantly with suppressors, and a lot of it has to do with technology in general. Like just you can submit an E-form that easily. And
you can get them at a kiosk now. You know, it's like
you show up.
It is amazing compared to what it was before, and it's incredible to see so many people get into the suppressor market. I think it was one of those things where people just thought that was for Hollywood movies. And, it wasn't a thing that you could just easily get at your local gun store. That's changed significantly, especially even online. You can buy firearms that way.
Yeah.
You know, I used to think my first fascination with suppressors, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Tears of the Sun.
Oh, yeah,
I do.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm old enough.
So there was a right. So there was, in that movie there was a sniper that was on the team called Flea, and I remember that scene was like Flea take out the Zippo, and you just heard, and I was like, oh, that was so cool, and not knowing back then, that there's some Hollywood in there,
especially back in the day. You're talking about what that would have been like correct period timing film,
right?
Yeah, they would not have had anything that was that quiet.
And that was when I was like, oh man, dude, I would love to really shoot one of those. Like, what is this about? And I didn't understand supersonic versus subsonic ammunition. I didn't know any of that. It was just kind of new, and it was fascinating. And I was like, that's cool, But there are some myths out there, but I remember that being my first.
Speaking of that, just thought about it. Okay, so you just brought a movie, man. While you're here, we should do a video, like I don't know, like top 5 sniper movies or something, and you make comments on it.
Sure,
that'd be cool.
That'd be cool.
Yeah,
man.
that would be cool.
I mean, we can just squeeze it in tomorrow.
Yeah, we can do that. That'd be fun.
That'd be awesome. Let's use that. What is that? Tears of the Sun?
Tears of the Sun.
Yeah.
That could be one of them. That's cool.
Yeah.
Actual sniper making comments on it.
Yeah, absolutely. No issues there. Some of it.
Just thought about it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Some of it. Yeah.
I'll be gentle.
Oh, you should. No, just let it rip, dude.
Hey,
I'll be gentle.
He will not. He will not be gentle.
I love it. You don't need to be.
He rips them apart.
The comment section is very gentle.
Yeah, it's like
he rips them apart.
Yeah,
good.
I don't know if I'd have done
there was
that.
There was a time when Josh was fun to go to the movies with, but now we just kind of stick to what's funny to watch.
I will say this: if we do go to a scary movie, I'm the worst guy you can take to a scary movie, because I'm like, he's behind you, girl, look behind you, and everybody's like, shut up, for the love of God. I'm like, sorry.
I thought you might say that. I didn't know if you were going to say you start laughing either. That's some people's defensive response where they just start laughing and you're like
the
dying.
Joker.
Yeah, she's being stabbed to death. You don't need to start laughing.
Like, jeez, dude.
Oh man, we got to watch a scary movie now. So I love scary. Okay, I love scary movies. Have you seen The Conjuring? Sirius.
Yeah, that one's a little rough.
Insidious.
Man. Yeah.
The new one's coming out in July.
Yeah, there is. There's
The fourth one.
Yeah, that's crazy how
Dude,
many they've come out
I'm
with.
telling you, man, I am a huge scary movie guy, but I like the paranormal stuff, right? Not necessarily some serial killer, like a lot of blood, like Michael Myers. I'll watch that too. It's fun.
Yeah.
The original.
I love it. I mean,
The original Halloween. Are you kidding me?
No, I
Josh
like it.
Carpenter's,
Yeah,
like
the music is
OG.
everything,
That is
yeah.
incredible. It's one of the best.
Was that an echo? Did I
Yeah,
do that?
exactly.
I think
If
that we
you
have
know
a
it, you know
problem.
it.
But no, it's like the Conjuring, the Annabelle, Sinister series, Insidious, obviously. Dude, oh man,
Yeah.
Ouija board, like Ouija. Oh,
Yes.
I love stuff like that.
Oh man, I don't touch them.
No,
That's,
why
the,
not?
that's,
Oh,
that's
no.
a whole nother realm, bro. It's
Same
like,
here.
You can't see anybody behind them, too. 'Cause
Yeah.
in ghost movies, it just happens.
Yep. But I know it's one of them things. It's like there is a demon in my house. Grab the Utah.
There's a movie, Lights Out or something like that. There's this,
I've seen that one.
this ghost or whatever you can't touch him or her, I think, in the light.
Yeah, so
If the
when
light is on-
I remember the trailer, when they start like cutting off like the lights in the warehouse and they start
She's
getting
there,
closer
and
and closer.
Yeah.
So they get the gun.
And they're still standing there. You're like, why are you still standing
Yes,
here?
exactly.
But here's the deal. I was like, man, you as a gun person, like, man, I just grab my gun, do it. The director or whoever wrote it thought of that just to mess with us. So at one point, they see this ghost. And they take the gun out. You can touch it if it's dark. If it's any light, you can't. It disappears. And they shoot it. And with the muzzle flash, it disappears. And then it gets and then gets closer. Shoot again, it gets closer.
That's good. Yeah, I didn't
that's
even realize
pretty
that.
funny.
Good.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
I was like, man, you just ruined my dreams because I'm like, man, I would just shoot that thing. Apparently, you can't.
Now I'm even more terrified.
Yeah. Now you've got to be a Ronin to kill a.
Yes. I forgot about that part of the movie.
That's right.
Yeah, I've seen it. And yeah.
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I will tomorrow. I know we're going to try to get out to the range.
Oh, we will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
I'm pretty excited about that.
We got multiple things.
So we've only got 500 yards. So it's
Okay.
not, I mean, it's a good distance, but it's not a great
Man, I can hit
distance.
that with my Glock, man. 500 yards.
Oh, wow.
We can do it too for sure. For sure. Yeah.
I'm sure that you're gonna be dinging it.
You see him
I'm
lick the
excited.
front sight.
Old
I
David Crockett,
held-
Kentucky Windage.
I held.
Yes.
Okay, we're talking to a guy who dumped about 4 mags, 10 rounds each, Barrett M82 or M107, same thing. After about 40 rounds, when we were shooting the Modern Warfare video, we were going to look at the footage. Like, oh, we finally got it right.
Yeah.
And it's so heavy, I'm tired. I grabbed the barrel.
Oh shit.
After about 40 rounds of 50, dude, it's
Gloves,
stuck-
no gloves.
No gloves. No, just like this.
Just stuck to your hand?
I felt the pain. I want to let go. I'm like, oh crap, it's like stuck to my hand.
Yeah, you pulled the Men in Black.
Yeah. Yep.
Where he took them fingerprints.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's what happened to me. And I looked at the footage. I was like, yeah, it was worth it.
that was a good.
I'm the man.
Yeah. See, Ma, look, it doesn't hurt.
Yeah, I think it was an M107.
It was.
Yeah, unsuppressed. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
We need to get one.
It
of
would have
those.
been even hotter if
Yeah.
it had a can on it.
Well, yeah, we didn't.
I just thought of a way to kill that ghost. Put a suppressor
Put a
on the
suppressor on it.
That's right. Hide the flash.
All right, we're gonna write a horror
Let's
movie.
do it again.
Yep.
All right, write a horror movie.
There we go. We figured it out.
Yep.
There's the
Oh,
second
you know
one.
what? That thing also disappears when it's quiet.
Jeez.
I'm
Well, that's
joking.
all right.
Yeah, guy just throws stuff at the wall.
There's gonna be a tiny bit of noise.
Could you imagine? You're over there with a paddle with that bouncy ball going tick, 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 tick.
So,
I'll keep you around.
That's funny.
so, Josh, clearly you know a lot about long range shooting.
A little bit.
Yeah, one or two things. So, for the viewers at home, I know we've kind of talked a little bit about your background. Explain how you know so much about this and kind of where you came from and why you got into long range shooting.
So before I enlisted in the infantry for the U.S. Army, initially for anybody that knows me, I originally tried to go into the Marine Corps. Everybody in my family was in the Marine Corps. We're a military family, and so all of my uncles were all Marine Corps. And 9/11 kicked off. I was a police officer, and the longer I stared and watched the news, the more sick to my stomach I got. And, you know, you turn on the news and it'd be, you know, six soldiers dead, 3 Marines dead. And just every time you turned it on, I was like, man, I got to go do something. I've at least got to try, you know. And it was a fight with the missus, because she was like, you know, you're going to go over there and you're going to get killed. And then me and the kids were going to be alone. And you know, quite honestly, that could have happened, you know. But, you know, by God's grace, I'm still here. So that being the case, I felt the need to enlist. So I started in law enforcement, and then originally tried to go to the Marine Corps. And the guy, when I went to him, I was like, look, man, I'm a guy with bills, right?
Yeah.
I got a truck payment. I got a house payment. I got a wife. You know what I'm saying? Like, none of these things are cheap. If there's any way that I could get E3 pay, I don't want the rank, but if I could get the E3 pay, and if we're good, I was like, I'll go wherever you send me. You know, like wherever the Marine Corps needs me, I'll go. And I remember the guy's a black guy, really fit. He looked great. I mean, his uniform was pressed. He had these gold frame glasses. I mean, he's very professional. And he, in a nice way, told me to go fuck myself. Like, I remember he leaned back in his chair and he put his hands across his stomach. He goes, well, Mr. Kent, the Marine Corps appreciates you looking at the Corps as a possible option of your military service. However, the Marine Corps does not look or seek to give gifts or accolades for coming to the Corps. And I was like, no, you don't understand. Like, I've got to take care of my family. Like, I have to. That's my job. Yeah. Like, I have to. So if you can make this happen, you got me. And he went back and said the same thing to me. He's like, well, you know, we appreciate you, blah, blah, blah. And he did it professionally, but he's like, I'm not budging. Like, I can't. Yeah. I don't know if it's I can or I won't, but it didn't happen. And so I stood up slowly, and I was kind of disappointed, you know, because I wanted to go to the Corps. Yeah. Right? I wanted to go to the Corps because everybody in my family was in the Corps. And I stood up, and I shook his hand, and it was almost this feeling of defeat because I wasn't going to be in the Marine Corps. No. Or at least I felt it at that time. And I said, well, thank you for your time. He said, if you change your mind, come on back. I said, yes, sir. I walk out, and I'm talking about this dude scared me, man. Like, the Army recruiter was right next door. Oh, and, like, wow. I opened the door. I was like, ah! It was like, oh, God. You know, he's standing right there, and he looked me right in the eyes. He goes, how'd it go? And I said, it didn't. And he goes, okay, did you give him your social? I said, no, sir. He said, get your ass in here. And I went, okay. And, you know, within a month, I was at Fort Benning, Georgia in the infantry. Because, like, he was like, is that all you need? And I was like, yeah. He goes, sign right here. And so, yeah.
I did not think you were going to say that.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard some of those stories, but, that's...
He tried E5 or something. E6.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, right. Reach for the stars. Yeah, I don't know what they did, but they gave me 04 pay. So, you know, But no. So, you know, I started in the infantry, and then you know, worked my way up. I've been in 17 years, and you know, I ran the sniper schoolhouse for about 6 years. You know, I've taught the law enforcement sniper course a couple of times, so I know a little bit. I've been around. I'm a graduate of 3 different sniper courses. One of them, the German sniper course in Germany. So
one of the hardest in the world, by the way.
I've heard that.
Whatever,
wow.
You know, it's whatever.
So he does know a couple of things.
Yeah,
you know,
1 or 2 things.
But even before I got into the military, I shot competitively. I shot competitive long range as just a civilian, and I grew a fascination for it. So when they told me that they were going to send me to sniper school, I was like, what?
Wow.
You know, it was kind of like a dream come true. Yeah. I had 2 uncles that were Marine Corps snipers in Vietnam. And so I went back after I graduated the first school. I went back and had a conversation with Uncle Junior and Uncle Ricky. And Uncle Ricky sounds dirty. It always sounds dirty. I don't know why, but yeah, his Ricky, you know, whatever. And you know, they would tell me these stories, these fascinating stories of, you know, some of the things they saw, some of the engagements with the NVA, and so I grew up hearing these things. And so when I got offered the chance to, you know, go and then come back and be an operational sniper, it was kind of like almost going full circle, because I even had, like, as a kid, you know, in a military family, most people don't see this, but like in a military family, there's usually military books. One of them that I had growing up was Marine Sniper, about Carlos Hathcock. You know,
that was going to be my question. Was that your uncle's name when he said he was a sniper in Vietnam? First thing I came to was Hathcock, White Feather. Yeah,
White Feather, right? He's you know, he's done some pretty amazing feats, and you know, so I've gotten my feet wet in the long range marksmanship, and then being operational, just kind of seeing the operational side of the reconnaissance portion. Because, you know, a lot of people look at snipers, they're like, oh, well, you're this guy that they send in to, you know, take that one shot. And it's like, no, not really, not most of the time. Yeah. You know, you're a recon element, man. That's your primary function. Yeah. You know, and so you get in there and you learn how to work a camera, you learn how to build products, you learn how to notify the assault force of, like, what's coming. Like, give me a salute, you know, size, activity, location, blah, 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 blah. You know, what am I seeing? Like, if I've got troops in the open, how many? What are they armed with? Do they have machine guns? No. Are they, you know, is it light infantry? Are they armed with, is it a mortar platoon? Like, what are we dealing with here? Can we hit them with indirect? Because, you know, you know, Hollywood takes a look at some things and they're like, oh, well, you know, and there was an instance, like, I'll bring up Carlos Hathcock again, right? There was an instance where he and his buddy pinned down an entire NVA company out in the open, and that is possible. But in reality, one of the most effective things that you could have done would have been get on the radio and call an artillery strike, and it would have been over in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You know, and don't get me wrong, you know, if these are the boys that are swacking your boys and you want to get a little, you know, little vendetta rub in there,
Absolutely.
you know, make it happen.
Yeah.
It's great to strike fear, but you can annihilate them.
You can annihilate them in 5 minutes. And so, you know, there's, you know, the ability to be a good recon element and just be, I mean, you know, for lack of a better term, be the sneakiest bastard on the battlefield. That's your job as a sniper, and you're predominantly a recon or reconnaissance element. And then the marksmanship portion of it just is like an added bonus.
But it's also a very small part of what the sniper's role is in theater, in a battlefield theater.
Yeah.
Wow.
Very interesting.
In your opinion, real quick, what is the most overlooked thing that I think, like, Hollywood and other people on the outside don't think about as being a part of a sniper element?
You know, a lot of people, like, what I would say is that the real operational tempo. Okay, you could be a sniper element for an assault force, like Ranger Regiment or, you know, CAG, whoever, and your job is literally to possibly take out somebody pre-assault, and when I say pre-assault, I mean like 5, 4, 3. You fire on 2, 1, they blow the door, kind of thing, right? But in reality, for most operational snipers, dude, you could be out by yourself with 3 other guys or 5 other guys for 4 days to a week and not see a soul. Like that is also an option. And, you know, Hollywood paints it as like there's always this, like, target-rich environment. And so, you know, one of the things is, like, one of the, like, most realistic movies that I've ever seen was Jarhead.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's a good one.
Like, they trained and they trained and they trained and they finally got to take a shot, and then it was just canceled, right? And honestly, man, that's pretty real.
Yeah.
You know, they're so pumped about, like, finally getting to what I think they called it the pink mist in the movie, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it
Look for the pink mist, you know. And I'm just like, nah, man, you know, you're in there to do your job, but the reality is that they, in a real world scenario, they probably sat on that OP for a couple of days waiting for this guy, because it's like he's going to be here sometime between Monday and Wednesday. You know, be on the lookout. And so you start setting up, you know, security rotations, sleep rotations, the ability to get on the gun or get on glass or get on the camera to take pictures, because sometimes other people roll in that you're looking for. You know what I mean? And so there's all these other things that you have to take, even though you're looking for this specific guy or set of people, somebody else may roll in, and that be the thing that triggers something else.
Wow.
And so you might have one operation that you're on, and because these people know each other, somebody else rolls in, and you're like, hey, man, I'm setting this up. And then they're like, hey, tell me when this guy leaves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But there's a lot of boredom, like in reality.
Yeah.
You could sit somewhere and you could be there for days, and it's like, hey, man, you tired of looking at me? Because I'm tired of looking at you.
A lot of sitting in intel.
Just like
in
police
intel.
work, though.
Yeah.
All the movies, right?
Like a stakeout, right?
Yeah, like just they always show like, oh, kicking doors in and chasing people. I'm sorry, who's writing the reports?
Exactly.
Who's writing those reports?
After,
oh my God,
man, I'm gonna tell you something. After 20 years of working in law enforcement, you know, I heard so many people say, "Well, all you do is ride around all day." Well, no.
And donut. They forgot to add donuts and coffee. Free.
Donuts, coffee.
Oh, I got a funny story about that later. We'll talk about it.
Oh, okay.
Just bring it back up.
I want you to use your cop voice, though. Keep going.
Okay.
When it came to the actual job, 90% of the job was paperwork. 90%.
Oh my God, yeah.
You know, then you had the 10% was everything else. You know, the training. But the worst thing about it was everybody thought that it was just this glamorous, fun job. No, you're dealing with other people's problems. Yeah. You're never seeing them on their best day. Plus, you have to drag around all of your crap that you've got going on in your life. And I mean, it's not like any other profession outside of the military. I mean, outside of the military, because it's no matter what's going on with you in your life at the time, your job depends on other people. That's what it boils down to.
And I want you to go in just a little bit into your background as well, because I think it's something that we haven't really touched on. But I know from everything you've mentioned that you have some corresponding information, just like Josh does.
I actually got into shooting long range. It was well after I was in law enforcement. And
he got his 500-yard shot hit. That's it.
And the first time I ever went to a range that had more than, I'd say, 300 yards. I mean, I was used to shooting steel at 200-300 yards, and I got a chance to go to a range down in South Georgia that went out to 500. I mean, that was the furthest I'd ever shot, and I went down there with a 308 that it was a Remington 700 that I'd rebarreled. You know, my wife was mad at me because I was gone for the day. You know, everything, the stars aligned, everything, happened. You know, my prayers were answered that day.
And you ended up in the doghouse for a week.
I ended up in the doghouse for a week.
It was worth it.
Because I went down there, and I didn't even have, dope for that or that on previous engagement.
Yeah.
For that range. I had it out to 300 for that rifle. I didn't even know what a Kestrel was at that time. Matter of fact, this was so long ago that Kestrel wasn't even a thing.
No.
Wow. Okay.
All you had was you either had a data book or you had the
it was big to keep the data book, like where's the sunshine, like on this day, like what's the wind doing,
I see,
what's my direction of fire.
Yeah, some of these sniper terminologies or long range precision shooting, I don't know. Like I'm sure some of the viewers don't know it too, so I'm glad you guys are explaining it. I'm just listening.
Yep.
And my first shot was using the data that I had for 300 yards. I saw where it hit. I made my correction. Second shot, I hit a 8-inch plate at 500 yards.
Yep.
I'm gonna tell you something.
Dial 14 minutes, let it ride.
Yep. Dial 14 minutes, let it ride. Here's your wind call. Here's your dope. Send it. I mean, whenever you hear terminology like that, it's until you do it for the first time. Whenever you make that shot for the first time, and it's something that you've prepared yourself for, and you've read all the books, you've done the training, you've done everything that you can do to be the best that you can be at that particular moment. A lot of people say, well, I still remember the first time I ever hit 1,000 yards. So do I.
Yeah.
But for me, it was hitting at 500 is what did it for me. Because I'd never shot that far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once I made that one shot, I started looking for other places I could go further. Now, the furthest I have ever shot is, I want to say it was a little over a mile. It was 1,820 something yards. It was down in South Georgia. I can't remember exactly where we're at. We're somewhere in Brantley County, and I didn't make a hit. I'm not going to sit here and say I did not make a hit, but it was
close.
I ain't even gonna say it was close.
He shot. Hey, there's a bullet in there.
There's a bullet. There's a bullet in the air.
Wow.
So your background for long range shooting was just kind of you going out.
Yeah, it was totally different for me. And Josh and I we worked for the same police department
for quite a number of years.
For quite a number of years, and we just kind of hit it off. And I knew that he was in the military. I knew that he was a trained marksman, trained sniper, and I would always ask questions, because the more questions that I asked, the more my knowledge base grew. And he would always give me scenarios to work out with my own little bit of knowledge that I had, and he would always test me to see where, if I was going back and using.
Just come back and ask a question like, "Hey, here's your condition. What are you going to do?"
And that's what.
And then I'd walk away and go do my job again, and he'd go do his thing.
This is while you guys are in the police force?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Then whenever we'd see each other again, he'd bring it right back up, and we'd
be like, "Hey, man, what you got?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he'd give me, books to read, or something to watch, just wanting me to get.
Because you can see,
better.
like you know how you talk to certain people, and there's a fire in their eyes. So like, you talk to some people about like Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and you'll see their eyes light up. They're like, "Man, I really like that." This is a lot of fun. Well, with long range shooting, that was one thing that when I spoke to Gerald, like I knew it was a legit interest. It was his thing, and he enjoyed it. And so like when I'd see him, I'd hit him back up. He'd be like, "Hey man, you've got a target at 600 yards, 4 mile an hour wind. You're shooting this bullet. Here's the BC. What's your wind call?"
Oh, I like that.
Dude, I like this.
That's really interesting. Yeah, so I mean, it's like quick math.
Quiz time. It's quiz time. It literally, what he forced me to do was get outside of what I knew. To literally take my knowledge base and expand it.
I got a question then. So who got into U.S. Arms Co. before? First?
I got in there first.
Okay. Yeah. And what was your position, Gerald?
With the police department, I started out as a patrol officer, and when I left, I was a sergeant in our courthouse security. But throughout the years, I worked as a patrolman, narcotics detective. I worked in CID, worked in our crime scene investigations. Okay. And I also was a patrol supervisor. I mean, I did a little bit of it all.
You've seen a ton. That's absolutely, and you put 20 years in, you got out, and you got into U.S. Arms Co. after Josh. Yep. And what do you do at U.S. Arms Co., Gerald?
Right now, I'm the lead armor. Josh hit me up. We were actually working at another agency together.
Okay.
And I was like, "Hey man, you ought to give this place a shot," because he was getting burnt out.
Yeah. And I'd reached the point that it was just time for me to go. Even changing the area that I was working in, it didn't make me any better.
Yeah. So you're making the magic happen over there.
Yeah. You are.
Based off of, I use what the system that they already have in place, and I plug in what knowledge I have, and we're not, neither one of us are to a point to where if he comes to me with something and says, "Hey, I want you to try this," I'm going to try it. And it's vice versa. It's the same thing. We do the same thing with reloading all the time. Yep.
And so, like, I'll give you a nuance that we learned here recently, like knowledge, like not transfer knowledge through peers, right? So we were out shooting at the Camp Butner Eastern Games, and I was shooting monolithic solids, like solid copper lathe-turned bullets, and I would have rounds that would land deep in the X, and then the same hold with the same wind condition, same wind call, I would have a wide 9, and it was unexplainable. And what we figured out, and through talking with others, that monolithic bullets or solid copper bullets foul out so much faster than jacketed bullets. And it has a lot to do with if you were to take a lathe-turned bullet and look at it under, there's these ripples where the tool came through and cut the bullet.
Well, like for a Shytac.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so what we found is that those rounds foul the barrel out so much faster than a jacketed bullet like a Sierra or a Burger, that if you are going to shoot solids, you got to strip the barrel out and then shoot about 30 or 40 rounds, and then you're going to be fouled out again and then clean it again.
It's that quick.
It's that quick.
It's very, very fast.
That's surprising.
And if you'll look at a lot of long range shooters, they're doing the same thing. Like they are shooting lathe turn bullets because pound for pound, you're not going to find a better bullet.
No, the consistency throughout is
it's difficult to beat.
Burger makes a great bullet, but a lathe turn bullet is going to be just
lot to lot, round to round, it's going to be better, more consistent. So, but we learned that, and so like these little things, like we're kind of transferring this knowledge to the company to help make it better. And you know, we make no bones about it. Like if somebody comes and asks us a question, like we'll tell you, you know, and if we don't know, we'll be like, bro, I don't know.
We don't know, but
I can get you an answer.
Yeah, we'll get you an answer. I mean, we don't, and I love how Eric Cortina puts it. We don't know. We aren't the smartest people in the world, but generally we can find their phone number.
Yeah,
that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean that sort of thing, and Josh having access to the military side of things, and also the friendships that he's created throughout the years, and also with me having the same on the law enforcement side, we've been able to kind of put together this amalgamation of information and centralize it to a point to where if somebody needs an answer on what a certain, especially with the AR-15 weapon system, we can generally tell you what's going to work and what's not.
Yeah.
Because if it's something that we've never tried before, you better believe we're going to try it just to see.
I think this is really interesting dynamic that you guys have at U.S. Arms Co. of this open network that you have of information that's being shared from people who may not know no one can know everything, but certain people know a lot about certain areas, and then you work them all together, and you're able to create this really interesting weapon system and use the proper ammo for it or for whatever they're desiring for their desired outcome, whatever the mission is.
Exactly. So if you'll notice, most of our weapon systems have a faster rate of twist than like most of the industry standard. For 300 blackout, we're running 1 and 7. Some people run a 1 and 8, 1 and 9. And what we look at is that if we can overstabilize the projectile as it comes out of the gun, you might go into a little bit of what they call epicyclic swerve, right? Where the bullet's spinning so fast, it's spinning around itself in a caliber. And on paper, sometimes that doesn't look good to somebody who's like, man, I really want to see a chewed hole. But at extended range, because it was spinning so fast early on, when it goes into transonic flight or below 1,340 feet a second and it reaches that subsonic flight, we've still got a stable flight path.
The one thing that we noticed with that was that, and you can literally watch it in Doppler radar sheets, and Josh is the one that showed it to me, whenever you're spinning, it starts out spinning so fast whenever it goes into transonic. Well, a lot of times what you'll see with the slower twist rate is you'll literally see the center of gravity shift, and that bullet will literally flip over.
Yeah, and it'll fly ass first.
It'll fly ass first.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I mean, you could even get
because
keyholing from that.
You can, absolutely. Yeah. And so anytime you see a bullet that has, quote-unquote, keyholed, or it's sideways and it hasn't hit anything but air, right, it's because it went into a period of what's called precession. And one of the easiest ways to explain bullet precession is, did you guys ever have like a gyroscope as a kid where you wind it up and you pull the string, right, and it's going,
spin top,
right? So you'll notice, so I want you guys to think about that, because every one of us here is an A-type at some point, right? You spun that thing up and you pulled that thing as fast as you could because you wanted to see
spin forever.
How fast it'd go.
How long it would go.
Or how long it would stay up, right? And that's part of our nature. But if you guys can recollect one of those instances, when we pulled it super fast, that gyroscope danced around itself.
That's right.
Okay? It danced around itself. The bullet does the same thing when you overspin it.
So it just does this in the air.
It does this, or the phenomenon. Dude, like one of the guys that really figured that out was Brian Litz.
Yeah.
All right, from Applied Ballistics. So Brian Litz, he's a phenomenal, like he's a genius. He's literally a rocket scientist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
You know, he is wow. Listening to him talk about ballistics, exterior ballistics is mind-boggling. But he was one of the first
makes
guys.
you feel stupid.
Yeah.
Dude, I've always paid attention. Obviously internal ballistics, but generally terminal ballistics, right? But
On the
there's
target.
so much, exactly.
Yeah.
So much. Like I'm learning now, obviously talking to you, that external ballistics is so important. If the bullet is doing that, like kind of spinning around itself, then you're changing your point of impact significantly.
You can, but what I want you to understand is that in that bullet rotating around itself, yes, you won't get the keyhole group that most people look for,
At
right?
100.
At 100, all right? But at 600, when that bullet slows down,
then it gets
on that
Goes from
cruise
super to
flight
sub.
path.
Is that what you mean?
No. At 600, you're still going to be supersonic with like a
Depending
308
on
or
what it is.
65.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're going to get that good, true flight path because
It'll settle back down.
it'll settle down. Because not only do you lose velocity over distance, but you lose spin rate over distance as well.
Of course. There's
So
friction. Yeah.
yeah. So like when
It's literally doing the epicyclic swerve. It's going around itself, around its axis, and literally the exact size of that caliber. And as it slows down, the swerve will get smaller and smaller and smaller until the bullet completely stabilizes.
The exact size of that caliber. So
and so one of the easiest ways to explain it is the old gyroscope that we used to have as a kid. So the longer it stayed up, it slowed down, and then eventually, when it got to that perfect spin, it would sit upright.
Exactly.
And it would just stay
sit
right there
there.
for a period of time, and then what would it do? It would start to yaw.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then it would die, right? So a bullet is the exact same behavior in flight, depending on how long the flight path is and how fast you've spun it as it flies through the air.
That's the best way I've heard anyone
Dude, it's
put
insane. I agree. What if you spin it
completely
so
understand.
fast?
So
Like,
the
much faster than that. Would it just be like unstable right off the gate? I don't know.
So what you would run it would still be a period of precession, right? Or it will fall into that epicyclic swerve, but the gate would get even bigger. Or you would run into a period of or a possibility of like the jacket flying off, depending
It'll
on
literally spin
the
itself
type
apart.
of bullet. That does happen as well.
The best way that I
I've
can
heard that
explain
before.
it.
On a
So let me quantify this for you. Like a 1 in 10 twist on a 308, 175 Sierra running at 2,650 feet a second is 180,000 RPM.
180,000. Okay.
Okay, that's how fast that bullet spreads.
The rifles that he and I shoot a 1 in 8 twist in service rifle. He shoots a 1 in 7. We can shoot the exact same ammunition, but because his is spinning faster,
My correction
his
and
correction
even bullet selection
is going to be different than mine.
is a little bit different.
And it when you look at stuff like that, you really don't know what all is going on with that bullet until you get into talking with someone that knows.
Yeah.
And it, like I say, I've been around firearms my entire life, and it wasn't until I started meeting people like Josh that I really got into understanding there's a whole different realm out there of what is called precision and accuracy.
Yeah, I'm seeing that right now.
Yeah.
I really I watch a bunch of videos. I talk to Ryan. Ryan knows more than me when it comes to this, and I like to educate myself about it, especially knowing the bolt gun series are coming up. Of course, I'm like trying to read up on it a little bit.
Yep.
I mean, the things that I'm hearing from you, I mean, it's just fascinating.
It is fascinating.
It really is.
Like it's physics. It's physics at its finest. It really is.
Unbelievable.
And there's so much involved.
So much.
I mean, I know there's kind of the joke of like everybody talks about like, oh, when you shoot that far out, you have to take the Coriolis effect.
I mean, that
into
is
account.
true.
And I know it's
Do
true.
to a certain
But it's kind of used as like a hyperbole of how like intense some long range shooting is. Like,
Right.
oh, like not many people actually account for that.
You really
But
you really want to see
crazy.
what goes into shooting long range, I would suggest watching The King of 2 Mile.
Is that a documentary or a movie?
No, it's
a competition.
competition.
Okay.
They're literally shooting for record, trying to make 5 consecutive hits at 2 miles.
Yeah. Like your first target's at like 1,500 yards.
Yeah, I think it's 1,550.
It's just shy of a mile, like your first target.
Then your second
it's
target
impressive.
is a mile.
Yeah.
Your third target it progresses out to the fifth target, I believe, is 2 miles.
And you'll see guys like that, the guys that shoot those competitions. They used to run magneto speeds and stuff like that, and a lot of them still do, but a lot of them now run the lab radar right up by the muzzle, because if they have a miss right at range, and a general rule of thumb is that 50 feet per second is a minute of angle at 100 yards. Now that's a rule of thumb. It's not an exact measurement. Yeah. But if
2 miles though.
But think about that. Now when you think about 2 miles, I mean we're talking what, 20 feet or more. So what I want you to think about is like the muzzle velocity, the repeated and exact muzzle velocity coming out of that gun. If you can look at that lab radar, and let's say you shot 3,000 feet a second, and that first round impacted a 1/2 mil high, right? And so obviously we're going to make a 1/2 mil correction to bring it to the center of the target, but that next round misses low. Okay, and then we look at the lab radar and we see that our muzzle velocity on this one was 2940. We were 60 feet per second slower. It's a big deviation. They're not going to have that, but it also lets them track like their elevation miss.
Yeah,
yes.
And where they can take a look at it and go, I didn't miss that. Like that was the round.
That was the
itself.
ammo.
You could figure out like your concept there.
It's like I could just, I mean, it's insane.
That is.
It's fascinating. I don't understand it. Like I'm saying openly, I don't understand it, but it is so fascinating. It makes me want to, after this podcast, really get into this stuff.
It's
of course,
a
I've
lot
got
of fun.
the guys.
The ammunition that these guys are loading, they're looking, and everybody talks about standard deviation whenever you talk about reloading. Everybody wants that really low number on standard
single
deviation.
digit, obviously.
Single digit. I mean, you want it below 5 is where everybody wants it at. The most important number that in this is my opinion only. I'm just going to preface that, is the extreme spread. Yeah. The extreme spread from shot to shot is going to, how consistent is that? If you can get that number below 10 feet a second, 10 feet a second
that's impressive.
That is very impressive. Yeah. I have been chasing that for years with reloading. I have been able to do it a handful of times.
Yeah, it ain't many.
It ain't. It's very I'm not going to say it's impossible, because there are guys that shoot like F-class and stuff like that.
And they'll go out and they'll volume sort their brass of make sure it's all the same.
They volume sort it. They weight sort all the projectiles. They link sort the projectiles.
They check the ogive, base to ogive on every bullet and make sure they're the same.
The reloading tools that they're using are like, and this isn't a shameless plug for them, but the Prometheus, it's like the most accurate powder dropper in the world. I don't care what anybody says. When it can drop to within half a kernel of powder and be that accurate
every time.
Yeah.
Wow. Dude.
But we're talking about a $5,000 powder dropper machine.
Yeah. So for a lot of viewers at home, I'm sure they're some of them are glued to this, and they're like, this is what I'm seeking. And then there's probably a lot of them that don't even know where to start with this. You know, they want it. They're kind of like where Kai and I are, where they want to get further into this. What do you think the best first step to stepping in that pool would be of long range shooting?
Get a job that'll support the.
Yeah, that's a good one. Honestly,
that is very important.
It does sound like there's a lot of money involved.
It can be very expensive. It's very expensive.
You know, all right. So when I first started shooting as a civilian, one of the first things that group of people that I used to shoot against was the Army Marksmanship Unit. And back in that day, there was a guy. You guys probably have heard of him, Emil Praslik.
I don't think so.
No. All right,
he works for the Capstone Group.
Now
I've heard of the Capstone Group.
Yeah. So he's
like the best wing coach in the world.
And he is phenomenal with his ability to read the wind.
It's crazy.
He's still alive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And like he used to be one of the leading Palma shooters like internationally. So the guy was really good. And I remember there was a match. It was a 1,000-yard match at Martin's Range at Fort Benning. And I want to say the Chattahoochee Rifle Club was putting that match on. Now you got to understand this is 2004, 2003, 2004 time frame, and I came out there with I was shooting 168 grain, 308 Winchester, and my average velocity was 2680, 2690. It was your standard. Lot of ammunition, so I thought it would be enough to get to the 1,000-yard line. And when we started shooting, I'd have a round, in the 10 ring, maybe a round in the X, and then I dropped one out in the 7, and it just didn't make any sense. And by luck, Emil Praslik was the guy scoring my card.
Okay.
And so he's sitting back there with his spotting scope, and what I didn't realize is that my bullet was becoming gyroscopically unstable at that range due to velocity and spin.
So it was slowing down.
And it was slowing down, and then it would go into procession.
Into procession.
Yeah.
It would go into procession, so it's no longer predictable. Like, it's not flying on its axis anymore. It's pivoting, right? And so it was wherever the wind wanted to take it. And I had no idea because I'm fresh, So I know, put the crosshair on the target, make a best guess wind call, and send it, right? And I remember he's sitting back there and he's going, wait, do that again. And so I run the bolt, and I'm like, damn, this damn guy
so
from
good.
No, it wasn't that, because my scores were terrible. My scores were terrible, bro. Like, I wasn't beating Stevie Wonder that day. Like, it was bad. And so he's like, wait, do that again. And when I fired that next round, I heard him like, aha! He's like, bro. And then he called his buddy. He's like, come here and look at this. Come here and look at this. Like, he was so excited that he could see the procession of my round go unstable, because it, instead of having this nice conical trace going down range, it was now going.
That's
and
cool.
it was,
you could see that?
It was
see
disturbed,
a live version of that.
And he got so pumped about that, because here was a physical example of instability at range on a 30 caliber bullet. And I was like, oh shit, what happened? Is this my fault? I was like, I'm a nobody, guys. Just I'm serious. And then when his buddy come over there, they asked me to shoot it again, and they were like, "Whoa, bro, that's so cool!" And then I went through half the match, and then he goes, "Hey, man, your bullets are unstable at about probably 950, and it's just going wherever it wants to go at for the last remaining 70 to 100 yards. So that's why you can't predict anything into the target." And he, by his good grace, he went over there and grabbed some M118 LR and brought me some box. He goes, "Shoot this, it'll fix your problem." And sure as anything, it fixed my problem, and I started hitting 10s and X's. But I'll never forget, that was my first interaction with Emil Praslik, and I remember him coming unglued, because it was not something that they saw a lot of, because you can fix gyroscopic stability with velocity.
Yeah.
Right?
I just learned that today. Like it's, I didn't know that. I just thought,
when you look at the grand scheme of things, y'all have heard of the 8.6 blackout.
Yes,
right?
338 caliber.
338 caliber being shot out with 6.5 Creedmoor.
Yep.
1 in 3 twist.
1 in 3 twist.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I haven't shot it. That's on the to-do list.
It's hard to wrap your mind around a 1 in 3 twist.
It looks like a screw. Like you could put a bolt. I mean, just because the twist is so tight.
Yeah.
Literally every 3 inches, it's one rotation.
One
that thing
rotation.
is spinning
It's
so
like
fast.
And from what I've been told, it's like essentially like 300 blackout, but much
Bigger.
larger.
But 330.
It's the
Yeah.
idea of
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay.
And
Yep.
we're playing around with going faster with 300 blackout. We've got a barrel right now at the shop that we are going to do this. We're going to run a 300 blackout in a 1 in 6 twist, and we want to see how light we can go with it, how heavy we can go,
And the level of accuracy.
and the level of accuracy we can get out of it, and not just at 100 yards, but we want to see how much further we can push it.
Because as of right now, we've taken our 300 blackouts out to 450. Subsonic.
Wow.
Yeah.
Subsonic.
Subsonic.
And that was with
Like stable, accurate.
Stable and accurate.
we're running about 1150,
No, we're running about 1050.
about 1050.
1050.
What's the barrel
Okay.
length?
Barrel length is probably anywhere from 10 to 12 inches. but we're still able to repeatedly get hits. And what we want to see, again, it goes back to test, and more tests, and like reaffirm, and like where do we get the best, right? So we're gonna change the twist and see what we get for groups, and then see how that transposes over extended range accuracy. Because if you've ever been down range and heard a round pass over that was suppressed in subsonic, you never hear the rifle, and even at 100 yards, you hear,
yep, you just
that's it. And so that right there is one of the, like, do you guys hog hunt at all?
I've never, but
okay.
I know people.
Okay, so if you've ever been hog hunting, like
exactly,
a suppressed 300 blackout,
helicopter.
Real quick. That's one of the best.
Oh, you're doing the pork chopper, right?
Yeah.
So a suppressed 300 blackout is one of the coolest things you can ever hunt with, because if your shot placement is good, you're going to drop the pig with a 220 grain bullet, right?
Easily.
And
subsonic.
Okay. And you're not going to spook the herd, so to speak. So they'll get spooked because
they'll run 50, 60 yards.
Pumbaa down there is kicking, right? He's over doing the kicking chicken, and they want to know why Uncle is down, right? But after a while, they're like, oh, he's just sleeping, and they'll come back, and you can literally murk, pigs for most of the night until they start dying off, and then they're like, hey, we probably should get out of here. Something's in the water.
Well, half the family's dead, so we got to keep going.
Why is my family there? Everybody just goes over there to sleep.
I have literally seen people shoot hogs with subsonic ammo and placing the shot in the right area on an animal. You can make a very humane kill. I know a lot of people will tell you we don't care about making humane kills on hogs because they're an invasive species.
Yeah.
I don't like to see anything suffer.
I agree. I'm with you on that one. But
you make your best shot.
Yeah.
You quickly and humanely take the animal. And I have literally watched as one hog would fall right here, they'd run off, they'd come back, one is sniffing that one, and I would shoot the one sniffing that one.
Yeah. Because they're not spooked or startled because they can't hear the rifle.
They can't hear the rifle.
All
they hear is the slap of that bullet.
Generally speaking, what yardage do you have to be before they can hear the rifle?
So that really is. So we've done them
area specific.
It's area specific, but it depends on. So again, your suppressor. How low can we get the atmospheric pressure exiting the gun to the ambient atmospheric pressure? And that's where we get the quote-unquote silence from, okay? If you're loading...
Terrain features play a lot into that.
I'm sure.
If you're running 1,000 feet a second on a 220 grain and you've got a good volumed like suppressor, they're not going to hear it even at probably 50, 60 yards.
Wow.
Like you can be
further away.
You can be close, like really close. And we've loaded them as low as like 925, and you can't hear a thing.
And that the only thing, if you load them into a bolt gun, they won't even hear that.
Yeah, that makes
no
sense.
We're literally basing this off of what we've done with the AR platform.
Yeah.
All they would hear is literally the reciprocation of the bolt.
It'd be ka-ching, and that's it.
That's it.
Yeah,
dude, I saw
it's very, very quiet.
On YouTube, I saw this. It's got millions of views. This video of a guy who's taking down coyotes.
Yep.
And he's got the perfect scope cam and everything too. He's got a spotter, and coyotes are running, and his buddy's just like, hey, 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 like that.
Yeah.
And coyote stops and looks. He's like, kill him. That's it. That's all you hear. It's like, hey, hey, and then coyote stops, looks, kill him. Bang, out.
Yep.
And the dude just killed so many coyotes. And the top comment is like, and that's how they always did it. Hey,
yep.
Bang. Top comment is like, note to self: in the woods, if you hear hey, keep running.
If you're walking through Texas and you hear hey, just keep going.
It's not good.
Like
I've seen this before.
Whenever you look at stuff like that can be kind of misleading. Whenever you see people shooting that many coyotes at one time, because I predator hunted, and here in Georgia, in Georgia where we're from, depending on the area you're at, is going to depend on how many coyotes you're going to see. Growing up, if we saw them, we shot them.
Yeah.
I mean, we're my family. We were big deer hunters, big quail hunters.
Yeah, because they'll predator
Oh yeah,
they'll get in a pack and they'll like eat all the fawns.
Yeah.
So for the the whitetail population, turkeys, bro, they don't mess around.
They don't mess around. They will literally decimate your deer herd and your quail, your turkey. They'll get rid of all of that for you quickly, and then they'll move on.
Yeah, they don't care, dude. I just changing a little bit. I just remembered you were going to tell us a story. We were talking about law enforcement and stuff. You're like, oh, I got to tell you a story, and then we forgot about that.
Oh, okay. So, all right. I was a fresh recruit.
Redirecting.
Redirecting. So I was a fresh recruit. When we were at the academy, so you did the city's academy first, then you went to the state academy, and then you came back through your FTO process.
Yeah.
So I'm fresh out of the state academy. I'm a mandated officer for the state of Georgia.
Yeah.
And I've got a blue flame coming out of my ass, and I want to save the world.
50 feet long.
50 feet long.
50
right?
feet. All right.
So where's the first place I go? And so my FTO was an old salty sergeant. I'm not going to mention his name because I love the guy to death. I love him to death.
I got some FTO stories too. Oh my God.
So he gets in with me and he calls me Rookie Boy. Like that was my name. Get in the car, Rookie Boy. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right. Well, let me get my stuff. I was like, he goes, all right, come on with me. And we start driving. So we end up at the Krispy Kreme donut shop. And I'm like, I remember telling my wife, I was like, there's no way you're ever going to catch me at a donut shop in uniform because it's so cliche.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's so cliche to see a unit sitting at either the Dunkin', Krispy Kreme, whatever donut shack,
that stereotype is true.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so where's the first place he takes me? The shift's just started. We did roll call.
The hot now sign is on.
The hot now sign. Hot and ready. Calls are pending. But because he was the sergeant over the shift, he could send other people, which didn't make any sense because why didn't you put me with somebody that could go take calls? But anyway, for that particular week, I was with him. And the first place we went,
you must have pissed somebody off.
I had to have done something. So the first place we end up is at the Krispy Kreme donut. And we walk in there, and I'm embarrassed. Like I don't know how to carry myself. My head's hung in shame. I got a fresh uniform on, and I can hear things going on in the radio. And then we sit down, and he looks at the lady behind the counter. He goes, "1 black coffee and 1 original glazed, ma'am." And he goes, "Rookie Boy, do you want anything?" And I was like, Nah, I'm good.
We are still good friends with this particular
He's a great guy, man. And then within, I don't know, it was 8 minutes, we're still sitting there, and he's telling me about, you think you're going to save the world, boy? You ain't going to save the world. You're just going to keep it from imploding.
Knowing this guy, the first, what he actually told him is, you think you're going to save the world there, Rookie Boy?
Rookie Boy.
You ain't saving shit.
Dude, that guy.
So about 8 minutes later, a murder happens, and it goes out over the radio, and I stand up. I'm like, come on, we gotta go. He goes, sit down, Rookie Boy.
Dude, this is so relatable. Oh my God. Go
he literally looks me in the eye without missing a beat. He goes, I'm not going anywhere till I've had my coffee and donut.
That is so true.
And at the time, this particular dude had been on for like 22 or 23 years.
And he looks at me, he said, I'm not going anywhere until I've had my coffee and donut. I said, somebody just died. He goes, they dying all the time. And I was like, well, he's not wrong, but holy shit, bro.
This dude was...
They're dying all the time.
Being shot out. All right, everybody knows what being shot out is. His level of shot outness was at a whole nother level.
Yeah, wow.
He didn't care.
And I had another incident, same department. This particular guy had glasses, like really thick glasses. And so when you looked at his eyeballs, they were like pinpricks. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy can't see. This guy's blind. But he somehow passed the eye exam. And so he shows up. We get a call about, an animal. It was an animal call, whatever. And I show up, and this old lady, it's myself and this other officer. And she goes, hey, look, Pip Pip or whatever the dog's name was is on his last leg. I can't afford to, take him to the vet. So if you could just put him down humanely, I would really appreciate it. And I was like, yeah. And so I turn and I look at him like, hey man, you got that right. You can do it and he was like, oh yeah. I got it. And so now I'm trying to talk to the lady to keep her distracted because there's going to be a gunshot.
Yeah.
Not a gunshot.
So you know what I'm saying? I'm like, because she asked, she was like, "Can you do this for me humanely?" And so I thought that he understood what she was talking about.
Oh no!
And I quickly found out that was not the case. So I'm over here talking to her, and I'm like, "Yes, ma'am. I'm really sorry about this. But it's going to be okay." And then I hear, "Oh my God!" And I turn and like she is mortified, and I turn and look, and this dude has broke out his impact weapon and is clubbing this dog over the head. It's like,
oh my God.
Where this lady lived was right next to a major thoroughfare. We had just come on shift. At the time we were working night shift. He worked on one side of town, I worked on the other, and we literally heard this go out over the radio.
and so she is like blood curdling, screaming.
There are people riding by,
and
this
I look at him. I go, bro, what are you doing? Yeah. He goes, I'm putting the dog down, and he hits it one more time. And I was like, stop. What are you doing?
He goes, mag light.
He goes, I'm putting a dog down. I said, use your gun. Yeah. He goes, you can't discharge a firearm inside the city limits. It's against the law. I was like, you're the cops.
You're the cops. So is beating an animal to death.
I was just about to say, you're beating a dog to death.
And so I finally walk her. It's like, pow. And then she's like, bro, she is in tears. She is an absolute wreck.
They beat my dog and shot him.
What's better? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And man, like you looked at him and like his eyes got real big. I was like, there's nothing going on upstairs. Nope. Like this guy's, he completely didn't understand the task that was given.
After that, they sent him over to us and over to our side of town to get him as far away from these people as possible.
100%.
They sent him over to us and they put him on day shift. Big mistake.
Oh,
Big
day
mistake.
shift, man.
Yeah,
that's like we're retired on duty people. Go.
Well, at our agency, Macon PD, day shift, you call.
What?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah, there'd be 10 calls waiting.
Too.
Yeah,
we were a little bit busy too, but our afternoon shift, man, 4 p.m. to 2 a.m.
That's generally for most agencies. That's the busy period.
We had to document every single call we went to on a paper.
Yeah, we had same thing. Call off.
So like 12. I'm just making this up. Like a 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. This is the address. Domestic. Code this. If I wrote a report, advise whatever I did. Right. And I would have, on average, every single day, 15 to 20 calls per shift. Like it was so insane. We would, and I'd say like I would piss in an evidence bag while I'm driving my squad car.
That's commitment. That's commitment.
That's commitment.
You had no choice.
I'd pull off the side road.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm
running
in
behind.
The city.
I need
I'm
10
in the
minutes.
city, dude. If I pull over anywhere, people are gonna see it.
They're gonna make and then you got other troubles to deal with.
Care.
Yeah.
I
didn't care. I'm just driving and get that evidence bag out. So I'd always pick out from the equipment room evidence bags, like thick, like these really thick, clear evidence bags.
Yeah.
And
so
I'm you didn't poke a hole in them.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure about out of 1,000 of them, right? About 900 of them. They're my piss bags. They had to be because I was just running call to call to call. I had to I'm just going to piss my pants or I'll go to a call. I'll just try to kind of shit can it. And I didn't want to do that, of course. That wouldn't be good. But, dude, we had a guy just like that. When I first became a police officer, as you know, you're like fresh guy. You want action. You want to get out there and do stuff.
You want to put a boot in somebody's ass is what you really want to do.
Yep.
You guys know what paddy wagon is?
Yep.
Anybody who doesn't know what paddy wagon is?
That's the van that usually takes you to court, but if you got a bunch of people, they'll pull it out and load up the folks. Yeah.
So we just go in. Anybody who makes an arrest, paddy wagon goes pick up the arrestee. So the patrol guy gets back on duty. No time wasted. Boom. Nobody works to paddy wagon, especially the new guys, right? Our union president, 33-year veteran, all 33 years of those years on patrol, which is insane.
Yeah.
Patrol, 33 years. Just imagine this guy. And I love the guy. Initially, oh my God, I was going to quit my job. But we got along later on. He's awesome. This big gut, white hair, little mustache, glasses. Just that guy. You can imagine, right? He is the union president, and at that time, the police chief was just so bad. The officers voted, like 279 officers voted, and 276 no confidence to the chief.
Wow.
Like, that's how bad that chief was.
Bad.
This chief would go to schools and say, don't talk to police. If Rockford PD stops, like, that's how bad he was, right?
Why?
Because it was like his officers versus him. It was like a little
dude. That's not community policing at all.
Exactly. Whatever measuring contest. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, anyways, this guy that I work with, I don't want to get his name. We call him TP, and he would drive, like, because he was an always fight with the chief administration. He knew the laws and the rules so well. Like he was very knowledgeable. He would drive the squad car 25 miles an hour. And I'm not joking. 25 miles an hour to everywhere. And I am a brand new guy. Nobody wants to work with TP. So they're like, well, Kaya, you're on deck. I'm like, oh, come on, man. I want to be in a squad car. Like, I want to do things. So here I am with TP. This is after FTO, right? I'm on my own.
Yep.
And first couple of days, I hate my life. This guy just won't talk to me. He's just like this grumpy guy. I'm like, hey, these officers are like requesting immediately paddy wagon. The guy's kicking the windows and stuff, right? We got to get there. So we'll get there when we get there. Like, he didn't care. And the officer's like, hey, where's Baker 50 at? Like, and I grabbed the radio to say that we're en route. And I swear he would just hit me in the hand. He's like, we don't tell him nothing.
Wow.
Seriously, nothing.
All right.
So Baker 50, just Baker 50, we're checking on you. You coming? Nothing. Baker 50, and they would tone after 2 or 3 times they call you, they tone you out like beep. Units, Baker 50 is not answering.
Yep.
Baker 50, can you acknowledge?
Right.
And he just grabs, he's like, we're on our way. And that was it. And so we get there. So one day, we got a prisoner in the back, and we're driving. And I'm telling you, there'd be officers asking for help. He'd still go 25 miles an hour. Right? This is insane. He's like, I'm not going to let him to write me up for anything. He was just that guy.
Yeah.
One day, we're driving.
That's a bitter approach, but yeah.
It was just, I'm telling you, he and I got into so many fights. Like, I legit didn't want to work there anymore. But after about a week or so, I got to know him. I was like, okay, he's a teddy bear. So we were good, right?
Right.
And we're driving, and I noticed the paddy wagon with a prisoner in the back, right? He's going about 55 miles an hour in the city, and it's 35. There's something going on here. I don't know what's going on, and I'm not afraid to ask the guy, right?
Right.
He's driving real fast. I'm like, oh, yeah, let me hang on to this car, right? And we get in. I get the prisoner out. He's like, yeah, you take him in. I'll meet you in there. And I put my gun away. I get the prisoner. I'm waiting for the booking area. They're opening the door. And TP walks in the bathroom. And I go in. I book the guy, whatever. And TP never came in. I'm in there for 20 minutes. I book the guy. I walk out, get my gun, walk in. He's in the paddy wagon. This is overnight shift. It's like 4 in the morning. He's just reading his newspaper, glasses all the way down the tip of his nose like that. He's just reading it, right? And I just go in and throw the handcuffs, whatever, shackles. And I'm like, hey, gotta go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. He's like, all right. He's reading. He doesn't even look at me. I go to the bathroom. I open the door. It's a one stall, like one bathroom, right? Just an individual bathroom. You know the handle where you flush the bath thing?
Right.
Like the shiny pole and a handle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is crap on there all the way to the wall and the end of the seat. It's like, I was like, holy crap, like what happened here?
You had just experienced your first 10-200.
Yep. So Code Brown, we call it the Code Brown. So I was like, whoa, I didn't even use the bathroom.
Yeah.
I go back in there, and I literally watched them go in there. And I go in, I open the door, I'm like, TP, what happened in there? Right? He didn't even look at me. He's just like, yeah, I couldn't quite make it.
Now I get the TP. I get the TP reference.
Yes. I was like, oh my God, like, why didn't you warn me? He's like, let's get out of here.
Before they blame it on me.
Got a code brown.
That was my thing. But it's, dude, so many FTO stories. A lot of that stuff. Just
So another one for me. Now this was kind of humiliating, and I fought it for a while, but to get out of FTO phase, they had this. You guys remember the little horse rides that you'd put the change in, and the horse would do this right here.
I forgot about this.
Yeah. All right, so this last FTO, he was my third FTO. So you had to get a bless off from 3 different FTOs before they would release you. Yep. And this last one, it was my last night on FTO, and he looks at me. He goes, "There ain't but one thing left to do."
On the sheet, on the thing.
And I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You need a lesson in humility."
That's funny.
And I went, "Well, I do the best I can. I know that I'm nobody special. I'm just going to do the best job I can." And I thought that was what he was looking for. And he goes, "That's good." And we kept driving. He goes, "But you still have got to get a lesson in humility." And
it was in front of the Roses.
It was the Family Dollar.
Family Dollar, that's right.
On the south side of the city.
Yep.
So we pull up, and there's this horse that 5-year-olds get on, and he goes, "You got to ride the horse." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
If someone says that to me, I'm terrified.
Yeah. He's like, "Bro, you got to ride the horse." I'm sorry. He's like, "This is your lesson in humility 101. And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I'm going to turn my lights on, the camera's going to come on, and I'm going to film you riding the horse for one full iteration." And he's like, "I want you to have your campaign hat, and I want you to wave it in the air while you're riding the horse." And I was like, nope. I was like, "This is some hazing. Like, I ain't part of it. Like, I've done a good job. Like, all my reports are good. I'm not going to do it." He goes, "That's fine." He said, you just won't pass your third phase of FTO." And I was like, "Well, we're just going to sit here." And I stewed, and I finally said, "Fuck it." I was like, "We'll do it. Fine. You want me to ride this horse? We'll do it." He goes, "That's the attitude." So we get out, and he comes over there. He goes, "Go on, get on the horse." And I'm like, so I've got like my knees up to here, and I'm holding on to the little handlebars on the horse, And he goes, he reaches down into his pocket, and he's got some change. He's like, pling, pling. And that thing started going like that. And he goes, "All right, hold right there." And he gets back into his car, and he turns the blue lights on, and I'm riding the horse. And he rolls his window down. He goes, "Now wave your hat." And I was like,
and I was around.
This was like 2:30 in the morning.
There
was nobody around. But
what he doesn't know is that all videotapes and stuff like that for that department was stored for a minimum of 10 years.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
So that was
blackmail.
I found that tape, and a good friend of ours.
Where is it?
I had to.
We got to watch it.
He's like, "That was 11 years ago."
I don't have it anymore, but I found the actual original.
It was actually
tape.
2003, so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's 20 years ago.
I get it out, and a good friend of ours, I think he was actually at boot camp at the time. I said, "I got to show this to you."
Yeah.
I just left the drug unit, whatever, got promoted, whatever, to the crime scene unit. And when I showed it to him, he's just sitting there like, he's got this dumbfounded look on his face. And I looked at him, I said, "Dude, what's wrong?" He looks at me and says, "I don't know what to say about that."
Yeah. But I mean, you want to know something, looking back on it, like, was it embarrassing? Sure. But was it a lesson in humility?
Dude,
yes, it
was. Police work, like, it's different. Like, those talks in the roll call and the things like that, brotherhood, that the relationships you develop with those people, it's a lot of fun, but there's some stupid jokes there too. Like, I mean, Like, I had one time, I showed up to work, I was off for like a week. You arrest somebody, you mark your handcuffs like Kaya. Mine was like Kaya 148, my badge was. And I got a couple of handcuffs. They leave in your mailbox. the paddy wagon brings it, whatever. Like we always do. If I see your Ryan, right, on it, I'll just throw it in your mailbox. Dude, one day I was off for a week. I was on vacation. I came back. I grabbed my handcuffs. Anybody who's listening, check your equipment daily. That was a lesson learned.
Yes.
Someone pulled a prank on me, which is the stupidest, in my opinion, prank. Like, dangerous.
Yeah.
They double locked my handcuffs in my mailbox. Now, you guys know what that means, right?
Oh,
if anybody doesn't know what double locking is, once it's double locked, it won't move, right?
Yeah.
So, of course, I grabbed my handcuffs. I put them in my pouch.
You're thinking they're loaded. Like
they're
for,
just
for quick cuff.
They're good to go. Exactly. Boom. First time I get to use my handcuffs, let's just say, a car runs from us, stolen car. They turn into a dead end, and we're right on them. Me and my guy, we draw down on these guys. One of them run, two of them just prone.
Yep.
Right? So I get the lethal cover. I mean, my partner gives me lethal cover, so I go on top of this guy, and I'm trying to cuff him. And I get my cuff out, and handcuffs won't go. And guess what I don't have on me?
Your cuff key.
I don't have cuff keys on me.
Mm.
I just got back from vacation.
That warded lock one.
Dude, it won't go. It literally won't go. And I grab the other one.
And it won't
Same
go.
thing.
Oh.
And I yell at my partner. So,
Throw
this is what I did.
cuffs.
This is what I did. I got up. I drew my weapon, pointed right at the guy, took a few steps back. I kept my gun point. I was like, you get him. I'll tell you what, just get him. That's what I said.
Yeah.
My partner went and cuffed him up, and I gave the lethal cover. I was so mad.
You should have
like,
been.
Dude, who pulled
Yeah.
it? Like, that is not a joke.
No, that's not
Could have had some
dangerous.
problems.
Yeah. But I couldn't cuff the guys, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
that was my thing. But overall, I mean, there's so many fun stories. I mean, this podcast would be 10 hours long. But
one of the funniest
I know you got
things-
one too.
One of the funniest things that ever happened to me was one of the guys I used to work with. He called me Youngblood, like the guy that used to run around with Dog the Bounty Hunter. I mean,
Okay.
I was pretty fast, and I was slim. I didn't have this beer gut that I got now. And we're chasing a guy, and he's going downhill. And all of a sudden, it's like 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. You know, it's been a very boring night. This is the first person that's decided they wanted to go rabbit on us. And I'm chasing him. All of a sudden, he yells, "Get him, young blood!" And I do the stupidest thing in the world. I think that I'm Superman. I dive, but all this shit that I got on, I weigh a lot more. So I whiff him. So I just hit the ground like, pop,
Oh my!
roll up, and he keeps on running. My two partners that are out there with me, they run by. They're laughing at me, and rightly so, justifiably so. And when we get over there, and they finally get the guy, you know why he ran? He had a
Scared of cops.
He had a misdemeanor warrant for violation of probation that was over 20 years old.
Wow.
Oh wow! And that's I guess warrants don't go. Obviously,
They don't go away. But
Yeah.
when we looked at it, we were like, "There's absolutely no way that this warrant's any good."
But how did he even get away for 20 years, man? Like, how did he?
He
not
was
get,
homeless. He was homeless. We just saw him walking down the street, and we went to get out with him. He just took off.
Man,
I've seen this happen before.
I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be good.
man, I could honestly do this all night, but I don't want to hold you guys any longer. It looks like we've gone over 2 hours over here.
Yeah.
But man, what a blast! What an awesome podcast.
Yep.
So
Just
glad
a
to have you
learning
guys.
experience for everybody. I mean,
Yeah.
this has been amazing here, learning about long range shooting,
Yes.
learning about how you guys make your firearms. I mean, I know there's so much going back to the beginning. It feels like
Right.
we've been through this long trek now to get here,
Yeah.
but it's just been so interesting
It's
to
been
listen
so
to it.
interesting. And guys, and people who are listening, if you guys have any questions for Gerald, obviously, Josh over here, just leave on the comment section. I'm sure they'll watch the video. You guys can go to US Arms Co. Obviously, follow them on Instagram and their website and YouTube and all that, and get in touch with them that way as well. I mean, phenomenal people who know what they're doing, especially when it comes to making guns, but the long range stuff, man, that is what really fascinated me. So definitely check him out. Ryan, do you have anything to add?
Stay tuned for the bolt gun series where you can see the Azrael in action.
Yes, bolt gun series coming up soon. I'm looking forward to it. And we're not done with U.S. Arms Co. Definitely check out Classic Firearms. We're going to have a couple of videos with them soon. And that's about it, guys. You guys want to add anything at all?
No, man. We thank you guys for having us on the podcast. This has been a lot of fun. I hope that we can do this again soon. Just sitting, talking, sharing stories, sharing information, making each other better just by, the sharing of information and what works, what doesn't work. So, we thank you guys a bunch for this, and anybody that's listening, check us out.
Yeah.
Well, I agree. It's one of the best things about the shooting community is that everybody is so willing to give of themselves and of the knowledge that they have. That it's not like any other community that I've ever been a part of, to include law enforcement.
Yep.
One of the things that I take away from doing stuff like this is the fact that we're building relationships that last a lifetime.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of the way that we look at our customers. We're building firearms that we want to last a lifetime, but we also want you to be a part of the USAC, U.S. Arms Company family for a lifetime.
Yep.
That is what we're looking for.
Absolutely. Phenomenal experience. I'm sure we'll be doing more and more stuff with you guys. I know that. Obviously, you guys are friends now, but we'll be doing more stuff. So thanks a lot for tuning in, everybody who's watching, listening. Appreciate you guys, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.